Welcome to Gatecrashers. Today's episode is a little bit different. I got to speak to the producers of a show called Vietnam, The War That Changed America. It's a documentary series on Apple TV Plus that weaves together powerful first-person testimonies and never-before-seen archival footage and emotional reunions between veterans. It's a dark time right now, but it is nice to see a documentary use the 24-hour news cycle that began in Vietnam to reunite people and do something nice with whatever we're dealing with. This documentary was fantastic, and I hope you enjoy the interview. Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you. So, I've gotten to watch Vietnam, The War That Changed America, and I do have a few questions for you about it. The series itself follows a series of interviews with the footage of the people who were actually in Vietnam. I was curious, as you made the project, what was the interview process like? Was there someone asking each individual person questions?
Yeah, so we would find contribute, as you say, in the archive sometimes, and we'd arrange to go and interview them, and often these are sort of fairly long, detailed interviews, and so I did them. It was me and the director Rob Coldstream, and what we would do is we would find some of them in the footage, but they didn't always know that they were in that footage, so obviously we'd tell them in advance, but we have these sort of amazing scenes in the film where we give them an iPad and we show them, and they're amazed to see themselves in the archive at that time. So that was a nice process.
It was a very touching it was a very touching series just because you don't get to see it from that point of view. With you interviewing people, how did you go about that? Was it sitting down one-on-one? How did you know when to either ask more questions or just let people open up?
Right. Yes. I mean, so what we do, we have a process where we have long conversations with them in advance of the interview. And then we sit down with them, and so it's not just one-on-one. There's a camera crew there, but we have this wonderful camera crew, and we like to set up quite a sort of intimate environment that allows people to feel comfortable and tell their stories. And often we let them start from wherever they think is relevant, and they start talking, and we guide them a bit. Yes, so that's the process.
It's amazing to see all of this archival footage that your team has kind of updated and kind of given more shine to, just because it's over almost 50 years old now. What was your biggest source? Like, what archives were you using? How did the research really go about for this project?
So we started with the archival footage research. So Vietnam was a war that was filmed unlike any other war, right? So documentary crews and news crews were given access to just to sort of go anywhere they wanted, right? So you have this wealth of material that didn't exist before or after in any other war. So what we would do is go to the archives, ask for, let's say we ask for footage from Saigon, and then we also get the rushes for that. So you sort of you feel like you're on the shoulder of the camera person as they're kind of wandering through Saigon or in a rice paddy or something. And we access footage from all over the world because it was a war that that was of global interest, right? It's during the Cold War. And we got archived from amazing sources, a Japanese news crew that had been down in the tunnels. So we had some exciting finds. And also we found stuff from that people didn't know that they were in, right? So it was an exciting process.
The project itself had a unique take on all of it. It was the first war that was kind of just televised, as you said. And I think for me personally, learning history in America growing up, you kind of see that this was the first thing that kind of gave us the 24-hour news cycle. With your project, it actually puts a more positive spin on where that can go with this archival footage. So for both of you, as human beings, what was it like getting to reunite some of these people and getting to see this raw emotional thing that may never have happened if it wasn't for your project?
Well, I'm glad you asked about that, because that for me was the most powerful thing, which is that some of the stories and some of the bits of the Vietnam War are incredibly dark and intense places. But what shines through often is the incredible heroism, altruism, camaraderie of the people involved. And often they hadn't seen each other for 50 years. Sometimes they would have diametrically opposing views of what they made of the war, but none of that mattered when they reunited. And often we'd see them just see each other and immediately fall into each other's arms, often sobbing into each other's arms. And that was profoundly moving and provides moments of real sort of light in amongst the darkness of war.
That's a beautiful answer. And moving forward from this project with everything you've learned, was there any big takeaways just about the world itself from getting to view all of this and see how it's changed and how we are now versus how it became when we first had television everywhere?
I think that one of the things we try and do justice to the people that tell us their stories. And then we want to let the kind of viewers of it draw their own conclusions. We're not kind of polemical, or we don't want to force people down any line of thought almost. We just want to kind of leave it open to viewers to make up their own minds of what they make of it in a way. But I suppose what we often feel we see is a shared humanity from, soldiers on both sides telling similar stories and having similar kind of, experiences and conclusions. So that hopefully there's a kind of common humanity that you see in the series. But often it's a whole massive collage of different kinds of human experience, and we kind of want to leave enough space for you to kind of find what you feel from it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I love that approach. Now, one last question. With all of this research that you did for this, what strengths did you take away from doing something like that? Like having to look through all this archival footage, what did you take away from an experience like that?
I suppose you were looking through stuff that can be difficult to watch, right? So it's the war, and I think one of the takeaways is really when you talk to the people involved. Yes, they remember all of that stuff, but they also, what they take away from it sometimes is what David was saying, the sort of the friendships that emerge from that, and what we try and do is sort of shine a light on those moments of goodness and decency that can happen in the darkness of it.
Well, thank you both for your time. It was an incredible documentary, and I'm thankful you're putting it out there for a wider audience to see the kind of positive things that can come from the fact that most of this was filmed. So it is nice to see that a team come at this from a very different angle, so those people who didn't get a warm welcome home can have some peace.
That's
better than any of our answers.
Yeah, we'll take that.
Yeah. Hey, thank you. Thank you so much.
Really lovely to meet you. Thank you so much.
Very nice to meet you. Thank you for your time.